Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about the one, the only Xcn crypto. Now, I know some people's relationship with this coin is not the best. I understand, right? I understand, right? People are upset at the price action of this crypto. But look, man, this is what kind of happens, when a crypto pumps up a lot, right? The crypto did pump up a lot. This thing in 2 weeks pretty much ran upwards of 20x in just 2 weeks in the beginning of 2025. Now, I know we're almost at the end of 2025, so this pump is not relevant for most people. But, the truth is, this type of pump usually gets a correction, especially that Bitcoin as well has been just selling off. Okay, the truth is, Bitcoin has been selling off, and overall, I expect Bitcoin to generally be continuing to sell off, probably until I would say we get to the mid 80s. I would say, of course, that's just speculation, but that is what I think, in my personal opinion. Even in the short term time frame, right, we have been having consistent lower and lower highs, lower and lower lows. So there's not any real momentum showing for Bitcoin, that there's going to be reversals just yet. If anything, it's just showing that we might even dump an extra, 7 to 8% from here, which obviously would mean cryptos suffer even more, especially alts. We can see Xcn has kind of just been going sideways the last 2 weeks. And even before that, right? Even before that, from the 10th of October to kind of the end of October, it was kind of going downwards and sideways. It was kind of just in this type of box, in this type of trend. And then we can see we broke out. We did say how we did expect lower and lower prices, as I don't like this type of structure on cryptos, right? This type of narrow structure. It's always just a sell side setup, to be honest. And we can see we broke out of the trend and then we sold off. And now we have a little bit of some type of ground, as we do have multiple points where we did touch, right? Boom, right over here is one. Here is another one, and here's another one. But the truth is, right? The truth is, we have been creating consistent lower and lower highs on the 4 hour, right? High, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, pretty much lower highs. And even if we go up here, it won't really move the needle because, once again, lower and lower highs. So these bottoms over here are most likely going to be very, very short lived at the 0.0057. Okay. Um, when we go to something like the daily, we have created the lowest daily candle close in some time, probably since, yeah, just since, I guess, technically here, 0.0036. So even on the daily, it's not looking good. On the weekly, right, we have created another nice bearish candle. Like I said, we could see a little bit of pullback momentum, but generally speaking, I expect things to continue going lower, especially that the monthly momentum is really, really bearish. In fact, I kind of expect November and December to be continuous sell-offs, as I do expect 2026 to be a nice year for altcoins. I know some people don't want to hear that, but that's what the Bitcoin dominance data is just suggesting. So I do think, Xcn will continue to go lower and lower. We do technically have some type of little support here at 0.004344. So we could see a little bounce from there, right? We could continue to sell off an extra 10% or so. Take it from here. Here, well, I guess technically more. I misjudged that, like 25%. And then we could see a little bit of a bounce back, right? We could even potentially go upwards of 0.0086 before we then continue to go lower. And that's if we want to retest this swing point up here, right? Because that is a current swing point. That is a current, that was a current support that turned into resistance. So we could see something like this. I'm not saying it's going to happen, because if November and December are going to be bearish, I don't really expect Xcn to find too much momentum. Look, We are still ranked 170 out of 9,208 active cryptos, 211 million market cap. Obviously we still want Binance and etc. When we go and look at something like the holders, we can see despite price going down, we are consistently rising in holders. So, you can say what you want about XCN, but people believe, right? This is very, very nice organic growth. People see this crypto as a nice opportunity to be buying. And you know what? Like I said, generally it is a good buying opportunity. Is it the best? Is it a sniper opportunity? No, but it's a good opportunity, especially if you have a longer term mindset, right? If you have a longer term mindset, it is going to be fine. Look, over last month, we are down almost 35%. In the last week, we're down almost 15%. And in the last day, we are down almost 3%. Now, just from this alone, the market cap, I do believe we know we could go to 10 billion market cap. So we could potentially be seeing upwards of 50x gains this cycle from this current price. Now, I know some people might think that's crazy, but we have predicted 10 billion market cap in the peak of Xcn's lifespan previously, a couple months ago. And for me, nothing has really changed in terms of the longer term price prediction. When we go and look at something like the short term stuff, actually we'll take not global index liquidity. Let's do MA cross. Right, when we look at the MA cross, for example, we can see on a daily we have flipped this. When the green is above the orange, that means we are bearish. We are bearish, and we can see early to mid October we kind of flipped, and we have been selling ever since then. Something on the weekly, right? On the weekly, we officially flipped mid August, and again, right, we never really had any strong buying candles after that. So the weekly is bearish, the daily is bearish, even probably the 4 hours fairly bearish. We could say at one point we kind of flipped, but like I said, it was short lived. We broke out of a trend and then we continued to sell off. That's why, knowing your structure is very important, right? You can't just follow the indicator because some people could have taken this as reversal signs. But like I said, very, very short lived. But these indicators still help, something like 60%, 70, 80%, depending on the indicator, depending on the time frame and depending on your knowledge, right? So that's one. When we go to the MA cross, we can see that when we go to the 4 hour, right, boom, on the 10th of October was the last time we crossed, and we can see we have been bearish ever since. When the red line is below the green, that means we are bearish. For the daily, it actually kind of crossed, um is actually was bearish even here, even like early July, early to mid July, it was kind of bearish. And it's very weird because, still in the short term for roughly 2 more weeks, we actually did see decent to great momentum going upwards of 30%. But the bigger picture was that we actually overall were looking to be going down and we did flip here. So very, very interesting, right? And you know what? I guess that could make sense when you consider the bigger picture of us spiking up here. This was just a turning point. Look, on the weekly, right, there's not enough data. The structure is very, very weird. So we can see, momentum has been lost. It's been lost for some time. And there's no real indicators or indication, I should say, that we are going to be going up just yet. Even in terms of the RSI. Now, look, the RSI is very, very unique. And you always have to take it with a grain of salt. But look, on the daily, it does overall believe that we are super, super oversold, right? Especially down here, which was technically higher, right? It was down here technically higher. And we can see it readjusted a little bit. And that's why indicators are a little bit 50-50 sometimes. But generally speaking, the R side does believe we are super, super oversold. And, as we continue to go lower, I would not be surprised if we kind of reach this critical um, zone once again. In terms of the weekly, right? We're still not there yet. We're still not at the 30 zone. We still haven't spiked below the 30 zone, but we can see once we do get to those lower prices, as we've been talking about the last few weeks, then we probably will be entering the red zone. And I think if you're able to overall buy, from the 30 range to even possibly the 20 range on the weekly, that would indicate very, very nice zone. Now, does this do anything for me? No, this doesn't. This is just literally like this. All right, cool. So yeah, on the monthly, it's in a very, very unique position. Obviously, this is not enough data. So, the daily is a little bit iffy. Take it as you want. in terms of the weekly, we still have more downside momentum before it's really, really oversold. You can see when we were over here, all right, this is the beginning of it being oversold. But when price kind of got adjusted, down here, these next couple of weeks were prime time, right? These couple of weeks were mainly prime time. It did say it's massively oversold here. So, but still, generally speaking, if you did buy anywhere in this range like this over those couple of months, then you would have made very, very nice money. But we can see, right, that even, for example, here was super, super oversold. Here was a little bit overbought, right? But then we can see actually when price started to go up higher here and then here, yeah, sure, of course we hit a green, but these indicators are a little bit iffy. So just be wary of them, just be wary of them. But yeah, that is ultimately it though, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.